well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. We're going to be talking about what is going on in Massachusetts. Lawmakers are still working behind the scenes there at the State House to craft a compromise gun control bill. You will remember it was last fall that the State House passed a bill that the gun owners actually called the Lawful Citizens Imprisonment Act, right? The Senate disagreed with that version. They ended up passing their own gun control bill, a little more scaled back than the House version, but still problematic from a perspective of a gun owner. They did that back in, I think it was January of this year. Then the two competing bills headed to a conference committee where lawmakers have been working behind closed doors for the past couple of months, trying to, again, craft some sort of compromise language. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I ran across a story from the Dorchester News, the Dorchester Reporter. Black Bostonians ramp up calls for gun access, talking about how black gun owners, particularly in the Boston area, are speaking up about this gun control proposal. And there was a couple of really interesting quotes in this story, including one from a Democrat lawmaker who said, when did this happen in the black community? Because I have gun violence all up and down Blue Hill Avenue in my district, but these are friends and regular, real people, not crazy gun enthusiasts, but real people that I know who say this is something they want to do. Own and carry a firearm. I'm not happy about it, he said, but I have to open my eyes to it. It's pretty interesting. Also quoted in the story from the Dorchester Reporter was Dr. Elizabeth Hinds-Ferrick. She was recently elected to serve on the Republican State Committee. She is pursuing her license to carry. She said part of her platform will be to hold Know Your Rights meetings in Dorchester with the Second Amendment a key topic. She says these are the people that are responsible. They have their guns locked up and safe. They're responsible gun owners. They're not like those who are getting illegal guns. The people getting illegal guns will always find a way to get guns. Well, Dr. Elizabeth Hinds-Ferrick joins us on the program today, along with firearms instructor Nolan Howard, to talk about not only the gun control bill that is being crafted in Massachusetts, but again, the pushback that Democrats are getting from black gun owners across the state, particularly in the Boston area, who say that the laws are already standing in the way of them exercising their Second Amendment rights, and they don't want to see things get any worse. Take a look and a listen. So Dr. Elizabeth Hinds-Ferrick is with us. Nolan Howard is with us. Thank you both for coming on the program today. It's really good talking with you.
Thank you.
Our pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And I got to give credit to the Dorchester Reporter as well, because that's how I found out not only about your interest in the Second Amendment, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, but the fact that black gun owners, particularly in the Boston area, are speaking up, and they're talking to their Democratic lawmakers and saying, hey, don't mess with our rights. It's already hard enough to exercise our right to keep and bear arms. Don't make this thing any worse. And I was shocked by some of the quotes that I saw. I think it was Russell Holmes, state representative, who said that he's getting, contacted everywhere he goes, he says. Even at church, people are coming up to him and saying, hey, what are you going to do to protect my rights? And he had this fascinating quote. He said, it's an unusual request for me. He said, when did this happen in the black community? Because I have gun violence all up and down Blue Hill Avenue in my district, but these are friends and regular, real people, not crazy gun enthusiasts, but real people that I know who say this is something they want to do. He said, I'm not happy about it, but I have to open my eyes to it. And I have to say, as much as I rolled my eyes, because as we all know, gun owners are regular, real people, right? Even those crazy gun enthusiasts are regular, real people. I am so glad that his constituents are speaking up and saying, listen, these laws are hurting us. They're not helping us.
So true.
So let's start with you, if we can, Nolan. I'm curious, as a firearms instructor, are you seeing more interest in people wanting to exercise their Second Amendment rights these days?
Yeah, I do. It's. I think now in our community, because before, like I've been previous places I've been on interviews with, I said we always had accountability in our community as Black people. Always the older generation used to kind of put us in check. But I guess now is, time forward, everything is going forward. Everyone's seeing what's going around now. So now it's just like, hey, we got the immigration, coming in. They're taking care of them instead of us. And a lot of people are either feeling a little, unease and starting to say, hey, you know what? It's time to go get my license. A lot of the older generations don't like guns, including my family. But, I've forced my sister to take my class. I'm like, hey, just get the license. Don't even get the gun. Just get the license.
Right.
God forbid something happens. You don't have to wait. You can just go down to the FFL, get your firearm, wait for a background check, and there you go. Instead of, doing something stupid and illegally and get yourself even in more trouble, then you wish like, damn, I should have got it. So a lot of people now are waking up.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Now, especially in the Black community, of all these gun laws that they're trying to, say, oh, it's going to help. It really doesn't help. Doesn't help at all.
Right. Yeah. And I want to get into that. I want to talk about what the laws are right now and how they're not helping, how they're actually hurting folks who are trying to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. But Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, you're actually in the process of getting your license to carry, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I just have to submit my application. I did take the course.
Okay.
Yes, my whole family did. Yes.
And what, if you don't mind me asking, was there a particular reason why you decided, okay, now is the time for me to get this license?
Actually, my oldest son signed up the whole family. We all went to the course on one Sunday. He was like, it's time for us to all be able to at least to be responsible gun owners and get our license so we can protect ourselves and also exercise our Second Amendment rights because we are law-abiding citizens.
Yeah. And Nolan, correct me if I'm wrong. Massachusetts is, I mean, I live in Virginia. We have a concealed carry license, but we don't have any gun registration or anything like that. So, a license to carry is necessary to possess a firearm in Massachusetts too, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So this is your license to own and your license to carry, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the barriers that folks have right now? I know for a long time, Massachusetts was may issue, right? So the licensing authority could deny you for any reason whatsoever. Now, Bruin supposedly changed that, right? Supposedly made Massachusetts shall issue, but is there still wiggle room for these licensing authorities to say, you're not really suitable. We don't really think you're the type of person who should be carrying a gun.
I think it's more of it's the policies.
Okay.
In Boston PD, like they've been sued by the FPC for the delayedness. I lived in Framingham, which was, a suburbs from Boston, which is a less restriction area.
Mm-hmm.
So I licensed within like 120 days, within 120 days, 4 months. I even had students who live in Boston now. They're waiting like almost like 10 months to a year.
Correct. That is true.
Even
before you get an interview. Yep.
My own godfather who took my class waited legitimately a year just to get it. And he got it. I'm like, it took you a year? You did my class last February. They're so backed up. It's not even.
That's ridiculous. And Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, you said it could take 10 months just to get an interview because that's part of the process, right? You have to sit for an interview.
Yes, you do have to, and to get fingerprinted. Yes, at least 6 months to 10 months. I think it's now about 6 months. Yes.
That is incredible.
That's how far back. Yep.
And listen, I mean, I understand we're seeing some of these same issues with delays in places like Los Angeles County, Alameda County. And, the excuse from the sheriff's department is always, well, it's staffing, right? We just don't have the staff. Okay, well, if you don't have the staff, then something's got to give, right? To me, it seems either the county government has to give you the staff to do your job, or the law has to change so that people can get their permits in a reasonable amount of time, because otherwise a right delayed is a right denied.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So have you heard anything? I mean, I said in the intro before we brought you on the program that, lawmakers are meeting behind closed doors. We don't know what they're coming up with in terms of this gun control bill. Have you all heard even any, semi-informed rumors about what might be contained in this bill when it emerges from the conference committee? Or no, they're keeping it all bottled up?
They are. There's no transparency. They're keeping it all bottled up. Yes, correct.
Did hear and read of some article that there are people they're calling them, giving some death threats. Some of them, because it's just like, well, hey, this is the public. This isn't behind closed doors. This is something you all just don't. You need to let us know. And they just want to keep it, away from us and just do what they want to do. And yeah, so this is what we're dealing with throughout from Boston, throughout the whole state, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's because of a one-party system that we have where practically everyone in the legislature is Democrat.
Right.
So we really don't listen to the second, the other voice or diversity of opinion.
There were 4 Republican state senators and not many more in the House of Representatives, right? I mean, it's incredibly lopsided.
Correct.
And obviously, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, I mean, you are a part of the Republican committee now in Massachusetts. So while I would like to see more pro-gun Democrats, you also want to remind gun owners, hey, there is an alternative out there, right? If you want your Second Amendment rights supported, maybe take a look at the Republicans because we are here, right?
Yes. That's one of the things that I'll be saying as I have my listening sessions. Yes.
Have you had your first listening session yet?
No, we're about to do it in the next few weeks because we've been so busy with so many other things going on, but it's going to be happening soon.
Okay, I'm going to have you back on the program afterwards because I'm fascinated. I want to know what people are saying. But is this something that since you've been elected to your position, are you hearing from Black gun owners who are saying we want your help with this, or people who would like to exercise their Second Amendment rights who are saying we need the Republicans to champion this cause?
I haven't heard it yet, but I know of many minorities that are licensed gun owners, and I will be approaching them regarding the subject.
Okay, That is good to hear. I want to go back to the gun control bill for a second, because Nolan, one of the things that has come up for discussion anyway is a live fire training requirement. And I've talked with Jim Wallace from the Gun Owners Action League about this, and Mike Harris. I think Mike told me there's only 4 ranges, something like that. I mean, there's not many ranges in Massachusetts that are open to the public, right?
Correct.
4 ranges. The rest are just by you got to get in private clubs. You got to get, and you got to pass the orientation. You got to get. It's a whole process. I think it was on Cape Gilmore with Toby. You got one in Drake on Target in Drake. You got Mass Firearms on Holliston. And then I think, what's the other one? I think maybe it's South Attleboro. I think South Attleboro, yeah.
So if that live fire mandate takes effect, what is that going to mean for you as a firearms instructor? What's it going to mean for your students? Because it seems like range access is going to become a huge issue immediately.
Mm-hmm. Especially for that. And then you got private clubs who have to accommodate that as well, which they may not even have the funds for it. It becomes expensive for me as well, but I would have to, charge more for my students just to use the range, and it will just be a ripple effect. I think what they're trying to do is outbuy everybody here and say be discouraged, and that's what it is. It will just be a lot. It'll be a cost. Could be a cost problem.
Yeah,
just in general across the board.
Yes, because you'd have to add it to your classes at least, to give them that 1 hour of live firearm training. Yep.
Right. And it's going to be, listen, it's going to be difficult for a lot of folks to get to a range. Listen, I live in rural Virginia. I need a car. But if you live in, a city like Boston, you can get around on public transportation, right? But you can't carry a firearm on public transportation. You can't take the T to a local range. So I see this. I think you're right. I think this is a way to put another barrier between we the people and this fundamental civil right to armed self-defense.
Mm-hmm. There's only one in Dorchester, and that's the Boston.
Yes, on Faulkner Street.
Yes. Yeah, on Faulkner. And that's been around since 1971 or something. In the 70s, let's put it that way. I was a member there. And that is the only club they have in Dorchester, Boston, that actually they allow because they train Boston PD and for the academy and the MBTA Transit Police Department area. That's it.
Huh. It's so sad. I was born in Massachusetts. I was born in Lawrence, and my family moved to Oklahoma when I was a kid. But, I love the state of Massachusetts. I love the people there. I just hate the gun laws. Among other things, cost of living, high taxes, but a lot of things. I'm sure, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, that you could bemoan the state of after decades of Democrat control. What do you want to see if you could be in charge of writing the gun laws in Massachusetts? What's one of the big changes that you'd like to see, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick?
Actually, as it is now, as long as it does not infringe on the Second Amendment, and of course, all the licensed firearms carriers should know at least about the dangers of having a firearm, and of course, the program that you have, Nolan, about Stop the Bleed, I think that's also should be incorporated in all training. The responsibility of being a firearm carrier and what happens if you have to use it. So, I don't think I would change too much the way it is. So at this point, I would have to study the bill some more to see exactly what they're trying to do.
What about you, Nolan? Is there any change that I'm sure there are a lot of changes you'd like to see, but is there anything that just immediately jumps to mind that you find really problematic right now?
Yeah, I mean, standardized capacity magazines is one. Having 10 rounds, it's like, okay, you got guys who have, in the streets have switches and fully extended magazines. Well, if they can have it and they don't follow the rules, well, how come I can't have a fully, a magazine?
Right.
Standardized capacity magazine, even a suppressive, but, only for the range. Certain things. And also it's like, even I would love to get rid of the licensing situation, but that's never going to happen. But, you got to give and pull. And it's just, even when I testified at the Senate committee last year, I said, it really doesn't matter what size the capacity magazine. I can have 3 10-round magazines and do the exact same damage or even more than a standardized 30-round magazine for an AR-15.
Right.
There's no of these in Boston. I can tell you that right now. Even the doctor can tell you. There's none of these in the Black community. Like, I can tell you that right now. If I had one, because I have one and I study, I use it for training purposes only, they would call the cops on me because they don't even see it. Most people just carry pistols.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. I think what I want is the Democrats to be more aware and stop trying to see what goes on across the United States and say, hey, we're going to do that. Doesn't happen. I think people in Massachusetts are far more smarter because they're already in the system. They have to go through everything to get the firearm training.
Right.
So, so that's my issue with them.
Yeah, and that to me has been one of the most frustrating things about watching this legislative debate over the past almost year now, that the legislature's been taking up gun control, is that Massachusetts already has some of the most restrictive laws in the country.
It does.
And, it has one of the highest violent crime rates. In fact, I believe it has the highest violent crime rate in New England. I see stories every day from, Springfield, from Boston. And a lot of the stories I'm seeing these days are, kids, 14, 15, 16 years old. They're not old enough to legally buy a gun. They're not they're not jumping through all of the hoops and hurdles that the lawful gun owners are expected to go through. They're getting their guns illegally. And it sounds like, far too often when they're caught, the system just, engages in a sort of catch and release. It's not even about rehabilitation. Right. Much less incarceration. It's, well, don't do this again. Maybe we'll put an ankle monitor on you. But that's it. Right. And that's what's really concerning to me, is that not only are they treating, and I'm talking about the Democrats in charge, not only are they treating gun owners as if they're the problem, right, but then when you do have this young generation that's coming up that is, willfully violating the law, they're putting switches on their guns, they're, shooting up streets, that's not. The gun is seen as the problem, not the human behavior. And so they're trying to legislate the gun and not deal with the individuals and maybe try to turn their life around, maybe try to put them on a different path while they're young enough to do so.
Or have someone like me do it the right way. You don't got to do it this way. Introduce them, bring them to a competitive team, like hunting something. It's just, and there's lack of resources in a city, then it would be the counterparts like in the suburbs.
So, I guess it comes down to the destruction of lawful gun culture, right? because I hate that phrase gun culture, because I don't think there is a gun culture. But when we're talking about, again, things like, hunting, things like competitive shooting, right? Trap shooting, which has become a hugely popular high school sport in many parts of the country. Those are all areas that we can teach people how to be safe and responsible around firearms, while exposing them to the fact that shooting is fun, right? It's fun, but if there is this mentality that is in place that, well, guns are bad, gun ownership is bad, the Second Amendment needs to be eradicated, you're not going to set up a culture of lawful gun ownership, right? You want to eradicate gun ownership entirely. And I'm curious, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, have you, do you think that this is part of the Democratic ideology to destroy that lawful gun culture? And then when it is replaced by a culture of criminality, then again, you can blame the gun and say, well, it's the Second Amendment's fault. So if we just didn't have that right to keep and bear arms, then none of this would happen.
If you look at what's been happening in Congress and around the country, that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're blaming the gun, not the person that is using the gun. So the gun is an inanimate object. So that's exactly, as you said, that's exactly what they're trying to do: change the law, take away Second Amendment rights.
Nolan, how easy do you think it would be to rebuild that culture of lawful gun ownership in Massachusetts, given the hostility that folks like yourself face from lawmakers?
It would be a challenge. It'd be a challenge, but I think if you give people the resources, I think you could definitely change it and change the outlook on how people think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be a lot. It's just, you would have to convince these people. Yeah, we are about gun safety and all the other stuff, and it's also, but we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about everything. Like when it comes to mental health and suicide, let's also talk about that. That's the part they leave out.
Right.
Right. So they just put us. I went through a program. I went through, I think, a couple months ago through the state itself about suicide and mental health classes. So now we have to incorporate that into my class on top of teaching, the gun safety. So if you're gonna do it all. Just do it all. Talk about it all, not just one thing. That's
right.
how you can really get this. Oh wow, okay. Because you have a lot of guys in law enforcement who are going through, depression, same thing in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just, if you're going to talk about it from the top all the way down to the average Joe like myself. That's how you go. And I know they all agree on it. We agree on it. Jim Walton, they all agree on about mental health issues in Massachusetts. I agree with it too. But if you want to change it, you gotta start from where the problem is inside the inner city, not so much in the suburbs. In the inner city or in the urban area, where it affects everybody. Doesn't matter what race you are.
Right.
Work your way. That's the way how you're going to fix it. And they have to be open to fix it, to be willing to learn how to fix it and listening to us. But they think they know better, like Representative Day does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, which gets me back to that comment by Representative Russell Holmes. Is there a prejudice against Black gun ownership in Massachusetts?
There probably has been.
Because when I saw Russell Holmes say, well, this is, I'm shocked. These are people from my community. This isn't the gun nuts, right, who are saying this. It's almost like there's this expectation of, well, guys that look frankly like me, these middle-aged white guys with big beards and ball caps. Okay, yeah, fine. They're the gun nuts. But when it's my neighbor talking about wanting to own a gun, well, why would my neighbor want to do that? It's again, frustrating for me to see that attitude displayed.
We had accountability in our community. That's why we're so like that, the older generation. But now it's shocking to him. It's like, well, because people who are so against guns are now realizing, oh goodness, it's a little bit more something than what it is. It's now changed. It's now turning. I know he said he didn't like it. Same thing with Chris Orwell. He didn't like it, but it's like they have to follow. So when you have your own people telling you, hey, don't touch anything, don't do anything because I want to do it the right way, now they're at a conflicted standstill and it's like, oh crap, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
It might make your job as a Republican more difficult, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, but would you be okay if Democrats in Massachusetts actually embraced the right to keep and bear arms and had that sort of, wake up moment?
Oh, I would love it. As long as they're not trampling on the Second Amendment right, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I can work with both sides of the aisles. That's fine with me.
From a political perspective, I have to say I don't think you have much to worry about, at least in the very near future. But I hope that one day this is a nonpartisan issue. That, as you say, that this can be about mental health, that this can be about crime. It can be about these individual circumstances without it devolving into, well, guns are bad, and if we just prevent everybody from getting a gun, then our problems are solved. And I think that attitude has been in place, for decades in Massachusetts. And you're right, it's so entrenched and it's so hard to break up that ideology. And maybe it does take another generation coming up saying, listen, this doesn't work for us. We want to be able to exercise our rights just like everybody else. And we're electing you to represent us. And that means you represent us as gun owners too.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I tell people, I say, you saw what happened for Harvard, the pro-Hamas stuff. I said, listen, even my boss, I said, give it 3 more weeks. When the weather gets maybe more warm, or you think now's a problem, just wait till the summertime. And then once they try to pass that bill's July, it's still going to be more of a problem. It's not going to solve anything. So They say it's going to, I'm just going to look at them like, so how's that bill working for you? Because crime went up another 100%, right? It's working, right? So I'm not trying to be mean and wish violence on nobody, but I hope it really smacks them back in the face so that they will go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. Are you seeing are you seeing an increase in people who are wanting to take their class now before whatever comes out of that conference committee is released and voted on?
Yeah, it's happening all over the place.
Yeah,
a lot of people are. Doesn't matter where they're from. I heard a bunch of people are just trying to take it because they don't know what's going to happen in July 1st.
Right.
You got the frame transfer that they're trying to close that loophole. I'm like, well, how can you say a frame is a gun? It's just a frame. There's no parts that make the projectile come out. So now and then it's like trying to make us put serial numbers on the magazine and the barrel of a rifle. Like, well, it doesn't work that. Usually I know some lower frames have serial numbers on it, and that's okay. But where are you going to put that serial number on the magazine and on the barrel of your rifle?
Right. Yeah, it's. I mean, again, all these things. Well, from our perspective, they sound problematic even in theory. But when they start actually trying to implement these things, I think even supporters of these bills, well, maybe they don't recognize the problem, but or at least they don't talk about it. But I think that they recognize that there is an issue there. And Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, last question for you, because we're almost out of time here. Do you think that this is the right to keep and bear arms here specifically? How important is that in terms of Republican outreach to urban communities, to Black voters who, and frankly, I got to say, I'm really pleased that you were elected. I'm really pleased that the GOP in Massachusetts is paying attention to Black voters, because I think all too often Republicans say, well, I mean, listen, we're going to get 10% of the vote. Why even bother competing? Why even bother showing up in these communities? And I disagree with that mentality. A political party should be able to work for everybody, and it should engage in outreach to everybody. So in terms of your outreach, how important is the Second Amendment in your messaging?
I will also incorporate that depending on who I'm speaking to, because I know that, as I said, I will put that as a part to gauge what people are saying, because I do know there are a lot of folks in the community that did suffer or lost relatives to violence, but still, I will also bring that up to them to see exactly where they stand.
Yeah.
But I do know there's a lot of folks that are in support of their Second Amendment rights.
Well, listen, I cannot thank you both for coming on the program today, for all of your activism and engagement. I'd love to have you back, as I said, Dr. Hinds-Ferrick, after you have your first listening session, because I'm very curious to hear what folks have to say. And Nolan, you've got an open invitation. Both of you can come back anytime you want. Anything you've got something going on your mind that you want to talk about, would love to have you back here. But thank you again for joining me today, and thank you for everything you're doing there in Massachusetts.
Thank you so much for having us.
My thanks to both of our guests today. Looking forward to speaking with them again very soon. Before we get to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report, let's talk about this for just a second. At the heart of our democracy lies a principle that we hold sacred, free speech. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom we cherish. Yet in today's digital age, discussions about our wealth, our rights, and our future are being silenced or overshadowed by mainstream narratives, leaving many feeling voiceless in conversations that are crucial to our financial independence and security. This is where Wealth Protection Research steps in, armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth Protection Research is not a financial advisory firm. They're defenders of free speech, committed to giving a voice to the silenced. Wealth Protection Research tirelessly seeks out financial experts. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of the 2024 election. Wealth Protection Research has created a 2024 Election Wealth Protection Report. Now, this free report highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election. It contains ideas the mainstream media won't touch, but listeners can get it completely free. Just text IDEAS to 76626 to claim your free copy. If you believe in the sanctity of free speech and the importance of financial freedom, then act now. Text IDEAS to 76626 to claim your free copy of this 2024 Election Protection Report. It's time to widen the scope of what we're told, to hear the ideas the establishment doesn't think you can handle, and to take control of our financial destinies. Text IDEAS to 76626 to claim your free copy. All right, let's turn to our armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a story out of Maryland, Belcamp, Maryland specifically. Alleged McDonald's murderer is a convicted felon, was on probation at time of shooting. Yeah, in fact, he didn't spend a day behind bars for the felony that he was convicted of. 19-year-old Sebastian Charles Nokar shot to death on Tuesday night at a McDonald's in Belcamp, Maryland. A witness with Nokar told deputies that there was an earlier altercation with someone inside the bathroom of the restaurant. There are actually surveillance cameras inside the McDonald's that captured that incident, which provided detectives with a description of the alleged shooter. Investigators spoke with a clerk at a nearby store where the killer allegedly went after the shooting. The clerk told police that the suspect was a frequent visitor to the store and actually worked at the McDonald's. Restaurant management later helped to identify the suspect as a man named Jibril Ramatuli. Police say that there was a report of Ramatuli acting disorderly at the McDonald's just 1 week before the shooting. According to WMAR News, online court records show that Ramatuli was on probation at the time of this shooting. He was convicted of felony first-degree assault back in 2018. He received a 13-year prison sentence for that crime 6 years ago, but a judge in that case suspended all 13 years and placed Ramatuli on probation. 5 years supervised probation. Records say he violated that probation twice, was never sent to prison. Right now, he's being held without bail, next due in court on May 23rd. If that sentence had been applied originally, Ramatuli would not have been working at McDonald's. He would have been behind bars. And Sebastian Nokar would be alive today. If Ramatuli had been sentenced to prison for violating his probation, either the first or second time he was accused of violating his probation, he also likely would have still been behind bars, and Sebastian Nokar would be alive today. But again, because in Maryland, all too often, and other blue states, let's be honest, all too often, there are no consequences for committing serious violent crimes, Ramatuli walked out of court, a free man, on probation, and once he violated that probation the first time and there were no consequences, well, gave him the green light to do the same again. Now, today's armed citizen story, also from Maryland, this time Baltimore County, where media reports in a case of self-defense, a homeowner shot an alleged burglar in what police are saying was a domestic-related dispute. This also from WMAR News in Maryland. The shooting took place back on April 25th. Police say, again, it's believed that this was a domestic violence act that was stopped, again, by that defensive gun use. Happened around 10:20 a.m. in Gwynn Oak, Maryland. Officers initially called out on reports of a home invasion. When they got to the scene, they learned that the suspect had fled after being shot by the homeowner. Second call then came in for someone shot nearby. It's where police found the alleged burglar suffering from a gunshot wound. According to police, they're going to be charged for the break-in. The homeowner not facing any charges because, as anti-gun as Maryland lawmakers are, they have not yet criminalized, not yet anyway, the right of self-defense. Finally, Our good deed of the day, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. A couple of employees of Walmart in Northport, Florida, who were able to save a customer who collapsed after having a heart attack there in the store. The individual who was saved recently had a chance to reunite with those workers. Mary Ann DeZano was walking into Walmart April 10th. She had just had dinner with her husband of 50 years. They were going to grab some groceries. They were going to look for a new geranium. And when she stepped into the store, she said she felt a wave of lightheadedness. So she walked over towards the register to lean on it, try to get her bearings. And a Walmart employee asked her, "You okay?" She said it's the last thing that she remembers before everything went dark. She collapsed, went into cardiac arrest. Walmart employees Suzanne Martucci and Tanya Frenner were there and immediately began life-saving care. They were able to help, keep her pulse going, keep her breathing until first responders arrived. Thankfully, again, first responders did show up. They took her to a hospital. She spent 4 days there recovering. But DeZano is alive and well today, celebrated her 79th birthday, as a matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, and celebrated in good fashion by reuniting with the women who helped save her life. So in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. These Walmart employees who were able to, again, save a life while on the job. Suzanne Martucci, Tanya Frenner, we thank you for your very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I'm looking forward to seeing you back here again tomorrow. I'm not sure who we'll be talking to, but I do know we'll be covering the latest Second Amendment news and information. And, of course, you can get that at bearingarms.com as well throughout the day. Just check out the website. And if you like what you see, I'd encourage you to become a VIP or VIP Gold member. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SAVEAMERICA, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP or VIP Gold membership. Not only will you get exclusive content, an ad-free experience, you'll be able to comment on stories, but you'll also get that warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing that you are helping to support the independent pro-Second Amendment journalism that we're doing at Bearing Arms, which is critically important as the gun control lobby tries to eradicate our Second Amendment rights and big tech tries to silence those of us who are using our First Amendment to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Enjoy the rest of your 2A Tuesday. I will be on Newsmax in the 5 p.m. hour with Carl Higbee, and I will see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. Until then, be well, be safe. Where'd that music go? There you go. And be free.